On this episode of AV Week, we take a look at what associations you should join, whether from manufacturing, dealers, or end users. Also pushing BYOD, beyond collaboration, and the economic outlook of the AV industry. All that and more. Next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
This is AV Week, episode 597, recorded Friday, January 27th, 2023, Community AV. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week, first and foremost, the only man in this industry who has better hair than me, Mr. Taft. Stricklin, welcome, sir.
Hello, pleasure to be here.
If you're not watching the video, just Google rock and roll, just add power, and you'll find Taft. Also with us is Ron Callis from OneFirefly. Welcome, sir.
Hey, happy to be here.
Thank you. Weird geography today. We're hitting both coasts, and I am stuck in the middle again. So there you go. There's enough rock and roll references there. Really quick housekeeping. By the time you're listening to this, the vast majority of the AVNation folks will be in Barcelona. God love them. So Godspeed to them as they run around and cover Integrated Systems Europe 2023 this week, 31st of January through the 3rd of February. You can check out everything at avnation.tv/ISE-2023 for all the coverage. Taft's company will be there. Just Add Power will be there. We'll be stopping by their booth, or their stand rather, over in the Europe. They call it the stands, not the booths. If you're heading over there, or if you're over there already, make sure you stop by the AVNation Tweet Up on Tuesday, the 31st, from 2 to 4. CET in the Influencers Lounge. So, all right, first story comes to us from AVIXA and the AVIXA Pro AV Business Index. The November 2022 Pro AV Index shrank from 65.1 to 57. The Employment Index went from 61.2 to 59.8. Now, very, very quickly, those numbers don't mean jack squat to you unless you understand a couple things. Number one, 50 is the baseline, all right? So 51 would mean growth, 49 would mean contraction, all right? So a little bit of growth. However, in that growth in November, it went down from October's number. So October's number for the Pro AV, the actual business growth was 65.1 and went down to 57. Employment, which is typically a lagging indicator, also went down. I do not need to tell anybody here whether you are in higher education or you're in corporate AV or you're a dealer that's listening to this, we're all having issues in finding folks, right? It is a very, very tight market. Peter Hansen, economist for AVIXA, indicated, quote unquote, going forward, the trends are going to be difficult to project. Hansen also pointed out to positive inflation numbers in the fall of 2022 as good signs for the industry. The Consumer Price Index, or CPI, for November was down to 7.7%. December's number was down to 6.5%. That's in contrast to June's number. Inflation was at 9%. So certainly inflation is going in the right direction for the industry, right direction for us, quite frankly, as we all go to the grocery stores. But Taft, we'll start with you on this. What does this Pro AV Index tell us about the industry in general, about the health of the industry going into 2023?
You know, we're all waiting for that looming huge recession or the market to crash, even further. And so these numbers are a little refreshing to me because we're not going completely backwards. The the thing that we're seeing is not fewer projects, but more projects being put on hold for a little bit, or they're
Okay.
taking longer. Overall, like we have product, but I have somebody who was like, if I could get the other things to finish the job that I've been waiting 4 months for, it's great. Having your stuff sitting here right now and we can't complete it is a whole different thing. And then we've seen some large scale groundbreakings just get paused. I mean, interest rates are, I have to tell you that interest rates right now are not so great, especially if you want to borrow a bunch of money and throw stuff at it. So when I read this report prior to us doing this call, I was a little bit surprised, and I was actually kind of happy that it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So our industry is important. Years and years ago, we were the auxiliary toys that some people threw in. Now it's the backbone and the lifeblood. It truly is. I mean, nobody's building anything without doing, at least tapping into our industry some way, somehow. So, I was impressed with the numbers and happy.
All right, Ron, from you and the folks that you talk to from the dealer side, what does this say to the dealers, but also what are they hearing back from their customers?
It says there's business out there to be had, and good businesses have an opportunity to grow despite the economic conditions. So whether it's a growth economy or a downturn or recessionary economy, there's the need and demand both on the residential and the commercial side for what we do as an industry. And we're seeing certainly some curiosities happen in the market. I'll describe the resi side of the business first. We are absolutely seeing certain types of projects, generally your what I'll call your smaller projects, maybe 75K and below. Depending on your market, they have either decreased or they've evaporated. And so that's a certain consumer, I'll call it your lower end of luxury wealth, or your upper middle class and your lower end of wealth are generally pulling back and getting a little tighter and maybe not spending that money on projects. Your luxury projects, call it your projects 100 to 200K plus, are as hot today as they've been. I mean, they are, those projects are out there. Dealers are picking those projects up. What makes it stressful for the integrator that maybe has built a large portion of their business around smaller cash flowing projects is that if that project is no longer there and only the larger projects are there, the cash flow dynamics in your business now are completely different. And then if you look at the commercial end of the spectrum, we're seeing just at a feverish pace, commercial AV firms engaging, not to be self-promotional, but they're reaching out to us at a feverish pace. And I interpret that to mean they're looking into the future and they're saying, what are we doing to increase our brand recognition? Or what are we doing proactively to increase the probability that we'll be the ones contacted for work? And so I see that as a sign of fear in the marketplace. But yet the true recession, the doom and gloom, the sky's falling, I'm not seeing it. If you look in the numbers nationwide, at least in North America, you're also not seeing it in the job reports. So I think we're just in a really strange economy. It's clearly inflationary. I think we'll be inflationary for the balance of the decade, despite if the Fed starts easing. And I think it's a case where businesses, if they just buckle down and put nose to the grindstone, there's business to be had and growth to be had, because many people will be fearful and pull back. And those that don't, that push forward, there's opportunities to grow. That's what I'm seeing.
Really quickly, because I want to highlight something here. Ron and OneFirefly is a high value, well-known marketing firm for AV, and I'm simplifying what OneFirefly does, but
Sure.
In general, that's what you guys do. Do you think that because you said you saw it as possibly fear? Do you think maybe the market, or maybe the owners that have grown up with good marketing are maybe seeing it not necessarily as fear, but they're recognizing the value of marketing now and saying, wait a minute, our pipeline's not great. We do need to invest in marketing.
Marketing is oxygen for a business, for any business. And for a long time, I've been in this game for 23 years. I know many of our listeners probably have been at it much longer than that, but I've been at it for a couple of decades now. And marketing historically has been branding and marketing, right? So I'm going to call it branding, which is a positioning of your business, and being consistent and proactive in that. And then marketing, whether that's inbound or outbound marketing, it is historically been at the bottom of a long list of priorities for business operators. And I'm seeing that it's working its way up the list, at least in terms of a conversation and or a strategy that they need to have correspond to their business strategy. So, i.e. defining where are they trying to take their business, whether that's entering new product categories, dealing with particular setbacks or challenges in the economy, whether that's macro or micro economy, and or maybe they're wanting to pick up new lines and promote it. Maybe they want to enter new markets. Marketing's role is to be the partner and the ally of that business strategy to help it become realized in an active way versus a passive way. And I think that we, OneFirefly, and many others are out there educating around that concept. And I think that it's being heard. And I think the result is, I could equally tell you perhaps we're in a recession. I actually think we are in a recession. It's always weird about that. You have to wait like a few more years to pass before the economists can tell you whether you are actually in a recession or not. But I think there's certainly plenty of fear out there in the marketplace. And I think that there's no doubt there's an increased awareness whether people are doing more marketing internally in their organizations and paying attention to what they're doing and what they're investing, whether they're partnering with other agencies or specialists like a OneFirefly. We're seeing growth in the category. And, I think it's exciting. It's exciting for us because there's strategies to implement when the market's challenged, and there's strategies to implement when the market's booming. And there's just different ways to play the game.
Next story is Barco has launched the second gen ClickShare Conference CX50 from AV Magazine. The new model supports dual screen, which gives room for remote participants and keeps them visible. It also, the new line also brings in USB and higher energy efficiency. Taft, I want to start with you on this. Where is the appetite for physical connections, USB-C, all these other connections? Where is the appetite for that when it comes to customers and when it comes to the stuff that you guys are hearing back from the field?
It's big. I mean, bring your own device is massive. And I've got to hand it to the guys at Barco for, creating a solution that's not just a, little black box that you can buy at, Kmart or Best Buy, that has, the potential to have things put on it that shouldn't be put on it, and can be kept secure. So I've followed them for a while since they came out with their first gen product. I think it's pretty cool. I've seen it in applications and projects where our stuff's gone in. And funny enough, not that long ago, I went in and did a presentation and in a meeting and actually used the product, and it was the earlier generation. But when you look at what they've built their own secure ecosystem, as versus, relying on somebody else's technology to go in and, screen share or mirror or whatever. I think it's a cool product. And I think the fact that they're integrating, people who are remote as, people that are in the office. I mean, as far as I can tell, that's pretty much every office right now. This person's here, this person's there, I think it's pretty cool. So, again, integrating the people in the office with the people that are not in the office, and being able to share back and forth and do split screen is pretty neat. But I do think the appetite for physical connection is there. and just the whole bring your own device thing is pretty massive. Nobody really wants to touch stuff right now. They still don't want to.
Still don't want to.
But I'll touch my own stuff, like physical devices.
Well, yeah, because you know where it's been, right? And that's the thing is, you know what you've done with it. You don't know, how many trips around the world, something else has taken. So, Ron, same sort of question, but also, look at it from the, how the dealers are interacting with the AV users and the IT folks. And Taft mentioned something there, and that's the security of it, right? And the security of these systems. How is that impacting and changing what dealers are having to do with the clients and what the clients are having to, I guess, allow on their systems to maintain the security of it?
From my perspective, Tim, if you allow, I'm curious. I'm looking at the marketing and the messaging around this announcement, and it looks like it's going to be on display at ISE in the Barco booth. Looks like that's at booth 3D400. So people that are listening and want to check that out, walk over there and check it out, put your eyes on it. But what really jumps out to me is two things. Certainly the UCC concept or conversation around making the folks that are working from home and making the people that are working from the office unified in the environment and their ability to share and participate in conferences and meetings. From a marketing and messaging standpoint, it is everything. It is all the rage. It is all the work that we at OneFirefly are doing for the integrator to make sure that UCC is better understood. And what you're also seeing from the manufacturers is they're putting R&D dollars in and their product development and their marketing around really broadening and expanding the platform of products and product mix that are going to work for people in the home and in the office. And what I find particularly fun and interesting from Barco is they're really working in this sustainability, and they're talking about reducing and a well-balanced carbon footprint on all of their products. And this particular product, the CX50, what does it say here, is the first carbon neutral wireless conferencing solution on the market. I think that is really a now. I don't know that we would have seen that in the messaging and marketing from these vendors, 2, 3, 4 years ago, but it's very much in terms of, I'd be curious if Taft, if you're working that into some of your product mix and your marketing, but I think there's an audience out there that are really those two hot topics, the UCC conversation and the sustainability conversation. It's front and center in this messaging.
As far as sustainability, nobody beats us. What you bought 12 years ago still works today. Same network, do firmware updates, make things backwards compatible. There's no reason for our box to ever be a paperweight. Come see us at the next trade show. We'll show you some new things. Might be hardware, might be software, but what you have is not a paperweight. And so that's really where we've driven from, is for people to be good stewards with their money, and for us to not end up in a landfill. So, yeah. So that's a lot of fun.
And what I would also say is, I think some of that, what you guys are talking about there is the next generation. I don't want to say generation, but I'm going to. The next generation, the next iteration, the next group of folks coming into decision making.
You're not aging us, are you, Tim?
We're all old, dude. All three of us, right? All three of us.
I'm trying to cover all my gray hair with my hat.
I know how old the two of you are, and I believe I'm older than both of you. I'm
25, so if you're older than 25, then yeah.
But you've got the next group of leaders coming up, right? And you've got the next group of IT managers coming up, and the next group that are taking care of the higher education facilities and the higher education networks. These are people, men and women who are making these decisions, and they grew up in an era of recycling is 100% important, right? Sustainability is 100% important, right? And yes, I'm going to age all three of us because we grew up before that happened, right? I mean, Captain Planet, as much as we all love him, wasn't that successful of a sustainability model, right? It just wasn't. And yes, y'all that you're 30, go Google Captain Planet and have a laugh on us. But you have these folks that they did grow up in the recycling era. They did grow up in the sustainability era. And now they're in as a decision-making position where energy efficiency is important, where, carbon neutral or carbon footprint is important. I think that you're right. That's going to be, really, really crucial as, they start getting more and more decision-making power when it comes to the final product getting put into their system.
There's likely mandate. I'm speaking above my pay grade here, but I'm betting at a number of institutions, there's probably mandates to be acquiring technology or making purchasing around products that do meet some sustainability requirements. I would imagine that's probably what we're seeing here from Barco in this messaging is they know very exactly their target market, and that's probably one of the requirements to get this product placed.
Yeah, I mean, we can start with LEED, right, certification and go from there, right? Absolutely. All right, final story comes to us. Final story is AtlasIED has joined the Security Industry Association, and real quick disclaimer: AtlasIED is a sponsor of AVNation, as is Just Said Power. AtlasIED, according to the story, announced joining the SIA, the Security Industry Association. The group has over 1,200 member companies representing thousands of security leaders and experts. According to Michael Peevler, Vice President of Sales for AtlasIED, quote unquote, joining SIA represents another crucial step to deepen our collaboration within the security industry. Taft, I'm going to pick on you first. I'm going to wrap it up because our very lovely guest that was supposed to be here from an end user did not able to make it, so I'll kind of take hers. But Taft, from a manufacturing standpoint, what other groups other than AVIXA, who we'll all go see in June, what other groups should you guys join?
We're in AVIXA, we're in CEDIA, and that's for us pretty much it.
Okay.
So something like the security side of the business doesn't make sense for us, being a video over IP company. Outside of that, we participate in several other trade shows that are, hospitality driven and things like that. But as far as other quote organizations that provide a trade show and education, and mind share, those are the only ones that we're currently in. So.
Mr. Callis, from a dealer standpoint, from an integrator standpoint, what other organizations should those folks take a look at?
Yeah, I think there's two primary classifications. One would be associations, which are generally not-for-profits. And, you mentioned AVIXA, you mentioned CEDIA. The other we joined a year ago is NSCA.
Yep.
Great group, approximately 1,000 systems contractors, primarily on the commercial side of the spectrum, handful, small percentage, likely in the 5 to 10% range would be my guess, are in what I'd call a resi-mercial mix that are members of that group. And I think those entities are great if you participate. It's like anything in life. If you don't do your part, you may not realize the full benefit. So if you join and participate by going to conferences, I think they can be pretty fantastic. The BLC, the Business Leaders Conference for NSCA, is actually coming up in February, so people that want to check that out certainly should. And then the other category would be your buying groups. And the residential side of the business has had a plethora of buying groups.
Oh, yeah.
There's Nationwide, there's ProSource, there's HTSA, and there's Azione. Azione is eminently going to be spinning up a commercial buying group.
Oh, wow.
Which I may be breaking that news here, but I don't think that's a secret. But that's going to be.
You can check before we publish. How about that?
Yeah, please. We'll want to verify.
Send Mitchell a crazy email.
I am on the board of Azione, although I don't have a role in making that bigger picture decision for them. But they are going in the direction of commercial. And I want to say there's a couple of commercial buying groups. I don't have their names on the tip of my tongue. Maybe Tim, you might have those names, but if not, we could drop them in the show notes. But I think it's really looking at associations and/or buying groups, and all of the above are awesome when you participate at conferences, participate in education, and participate as a member of the community. This is really about community, where you are not only learning from manufacturers, but you're maybe even more importantly learning from your peers. And you're also a part of that community, meaning you're also sharing. So when you share, I believe when you share, you receive, tenfold back. So I try to share as much and often as possible. Yeah. And those would be, I guess, at the high level, a summary of my thoughts.
So I'll give you guys a couple more, and there's a couple of buying groups. There's on the commercial side, there is not a whole lot, especially not compared to the residential side. Off the top of my head is Edge, which was known as USAV for previous, I think that's 6 months ago or so. Patrick and Whipke can email me later and tell me exactly, but that's the only overtly buying group. But I'm going to mention a couple of groups here, organizations, associations, and you guys kind of push back or just comment. Number one for users is HETMA, right? Buddy Joe Way, Higher Education Technology Managers. They are expanding that beyond education, right? They're inviting in not just, but they're inviting corporate, they're inviting IT professionals to join that group as well. The AV user group out of Owen Ellis out of the UK, they do have a couple of North American chapters. They are actually just getting ready. They just announced last week a meeting of that group in New York. I want to say in March, off the top of my head. They also have a group that meets in San Jose. So two major, technology hubs in the States. Certainly one. IMCCA is another group for users as well. And then a couple for anybody, right? Manufacturers or whoever. BIXI is one. And I'll put BIXI out there for a number of different reasons. First of all, cabling and infrastructure is incredibly important, but they have a lot of really good standards and they have a lot of really good certifications, especially as more and more AV moves onto the network. Now, last week, I talked about AV being IT, and you can beat me up for that later, but specifically as more transport of the signals moves on the network, BIXI will be incredibly important. And then I'll throw out NAB and CTA. Dear friend has a company that makes AV products. He has been, and his company has been a member of CTA for well over 30 years. And incredibly important. Yes, CTA is the group that actually puts on CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, but they're incredibly important on legislation, on getting in front of Congress, at least in the States, and getting the needs of the community heard. And then NAB is becoming increasingly more important, especially on the corporate side of AV, because there are more and more corporations that are rolling up and spinning up their own production spaces internally. They're putting together virtual production, and this is the DirectView LED walls that act and basically replace the green screens. And you can Google Mandalorian virtual production, and you'll be amazed, right? So more and more corporations are putting that into effect, and the folks that are responsible for running those facilities, NAB is not a bad place to go. And if you are involved in putting those in and installing and supporting them, NAB is not a bad place to go. So those are a couple more that I had written down as well.
No, I thought that was a fantastic list. I would just add, Tim, that anyone that is not a part of some community,
yeah,
all of the names dropped here are relevant. And what you should do ultimately is check out their events, contact their people, learn about the way that you participate as a member, and find what feels comfortable and where you're going to gain the most value. But don't just stay in your foxhole, which is running your business in isolation and imagining that all your problems, you're the only one in the world that has them. The reality is there are so many others out there fighting the same battles. And when you join these communities, you find your brothers and sisters in arms that'll help you figure things out and or point you in the right direction. And as a community, we're much stronger than any single entity. So I think any of these probably fit into that category.
All right. Well, that will do us for now. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Taft, Stricklin, how do people get a hold of you or Just Add Power?
You can find us at justaddpower.com. We're also on all the social medias, and my email is really easy. It's Taft, T-A-F-T, at justaddpower.com. So that's the best way to get a hold of me.
Very good. Mr. Callis, how do people get a hold of you or OneFirefly?
Best to go to our website, OneFirefly.com, or if anyone wants to reach out to me directly, they can do that, Ron at OneFirefly.com, and that's one spelled out, O-N-E, OneFirefly. And appreciate you, Tim, for having me in Taft. It was a lot of fun.
It's always fun.
For me, for Tim Albright, do not follow me on the Twitters, although if you are following me on the Twitters, you will know that this is the date that we're recording this, I should say. So by the time you see this, it'll be past. Today is the most important date in Bears history. It is the celebration of the date that they beat the Patriots in the greatest Super Bowl ever. So that's it. But go by the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others. As we are posting this, it is the last 3 days of the AVNation Reader's Choice Awards. So go by the website. Tell us what the best of 2022 was, and let your voice be heard. Also, I mentioned ISE at the top of the show. It happens the 31st of January through the 3rd of February. Go by avnation.tv/ISE-2023 for all the coverage, including you get to see Taft again, because he's on there, because we did a preview of their stand. But also go by the tweet up. It happens on Tuesday, the 31st, from 2 to 4 CET in the Influencers Lounge there in Barcelona. If you see anybody from AVNation, tell them we said hi. Especially if you see Mitchell Tulin, you have to absolutely. He loves hugs, so run up to him. Not really. Don't ask him first. I guess I should say ask him first. Mitchell's actually physically in the studio today, so he might throw something at me. But yeah, go by the website if you would please. AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.